Hello and welcome back to another video. My name is Brandon Watts, and today we'll be going over the editing process for a full photo shoot. It may or probably will run slightly longer than my normal editing process since I'll be explaining things along the way. Though if you stick with me, I'm sure you'll find solid tips throughout that will help you with your real estate photography. So before we get started, don't forget to like and subscribe to help grow the channel. All the information I post here will be free since it all comes from free information I found over the years. I'm not the person who is here to sell you a LUT pack or to take you for your money, though throughout my videos I do recommend gear that I use in my everyday process from shooting to editing, and as such, I typically will place an affiliate link in the description. I'm not sponsored by anyone, and anything you see me use in the videos, I've bought myself over the course of 7 years in the real estate photography business. My goal in growing the channel is to help you become more successful in your business by teaching you what took me years to figure out on my own. So outside of all that, like, subscribe, and let's get started. Okay, so we're going to get started here in Lightroom, and you'll notice that we took quite a bit of images. It's around 212, but we're going to work through them quite quickly. Doesn't take very long. Now it might take a little bit since I'm explaining things to you as we go along, but in a normal recording or a normal editing process, it maybe takes like 40 minutes to an hour to edit a house. Doesn't take too long at all. These are going to be the detail shots I took for this short-term rental. Only took about 4 minutes. You'll notice here 10:49 is when I took the last shot, and then 10:45 is when I took the first shot. Took 22 images, didn't take very long, only 4 minutes. And I include those with the Airbnb, short-term rental, photo shoots. Everybody's all like, oh my god, those are so nice. So, doesn't take very long. Now, to show you, this is what I meant when I say if you put a Godox Sony flash trigger onto a Sony camera. Now, if you look closely, it's kind of like orangey. Has a little bit of an orange tint to it. It's not really too white. Let's do D on the keyboard to go into the develop module. Hit, what is it? Whoops, just pressing buttons. W to bring up our white balance tool with the eyedropper. Gonna select that wall. You can see what it believes is supposed to be white compared to what it was before. See the difference? So what I do when I get to the house, the first thing I do before I start taking my 3 ambient exposures is I pop a flash just like this, and I will custom white balance and adjust there on location to get it as close as possible to what I think it should be on the color on the white balance. So you can see this is the original, and then this is where I got it to by adjusting my flat or my white balance manually in camera. And I'll have to show you all that a little bit better. But let's let's see how close we got. So that's what Lightroom thinks is white, and this is what I adjust for in camera. This is what I adjust for. This is that's actually like really close. This is what Lightroom thinks is white when I use the white balance tool. So that's pretty close. So that's why I kind of do that. Now, first thing I'll do is go and select all. I'll do Command A to select all my images. Then what I will do is go ahead and drop down the highlights around 30-ish. 30-40 is pretty good, and I'll bring up the shadows. That's fine. That's fine. I'm not going to touch my transform. I want everything to be exactly the same. Sharpening with the A7S III, it's more of a video camera than it is a photo camera, so the resolution isn't as great. So I'm just going to bring up the sharpening just a little bit compared to my A7 III, which the resolution is better. I would not increase the sharpen on there. details are already great. Now on the lens corrections, we won't touch anything else, color grading and tone curve, but on the lens corrections, we'll hit remove chromatic aberrations, enable profile corrections, and it automatically pulls up my camera and camera model or lens. Then we'll go into manual, hit it with a little bit of defringe on the purple and the green, and then we'll do sync, check all, synchronize. Boom, easy. All right, now let's get started working on the first image. I'm not going to select these two, I don't need those. What I'm looking at here is on the film strip. I'm just looking at my 3 ambient, my darken repair layer, my bounce right, bounce left, and this is the fill flash that I needed, which if you check out the full photo shoot, you'll see why I lit up this right hand side, and then I'll also explain it once we get into the image. So Photoshop is open, we'll do edit in, right click, edit in, open as layers in Photoshop. I'm getting this error message, something about, I already looked it up, but something about how Mac M1 chips, I think, are throwing off this incompatibility with a new update to Lightroom and Photoshop. So Adobe is aware of it and they're trying to work on it, but there's no fix for it quite yet, unfortunately. I'll be speeding through all these image load-ups, but for the first one, I'm just going to explain things real quick. Now, you can see here, this first one, I already labeled all these for you. So this first one is my dark ambient exposure at -2. Second image is at 0. But don't forget, on location, I increased the middle exposure by 1 stop. So this is what the middle exposure is. It's not set to 0 on the histogram on the camera, but it's plus 1 stop exposed to the right. This is the brightest exposure at -2. And then this is the darken repair layer. We bounced the flash directly above and behind the camera to fill in this image. This brings in the correct color, fills in some shadows, helps to fix some issues, which I will show you in a bit. This is the bounce right, followed by the bounce left. This will fill in the areas that we need. And as you can see here, compared to this wall right here, this right hand side is kind of like in a dim shadow compared to how bright this is here. Then you can see how these pillows or these cushions are not lit up because it's also cast into a shadow. So that's what this last image is for, is to brighten up that area. See how this area goes, this right hand side goes dim, and then we just fill that in. That's what that fill is for. So let's go ahead and get started. First thing I'll do is on Lumenzia, I'm going to create my HDR image. And what I normally do is I will bring down the middle exposure. Let's turn these off. These are my flash layers. I bring that middle exposure down to the stack of 3 ambient exposures. So my dark is on top, my brightest is in the middle, and then my middle exposure at the bottom of the 3. We'll go ahead and go to my brightest exposure. We'll do a darks 2, D2. And what this looks for is the dark areas of the image. Anything in white is revealed, anything in black is concealed. So it's selecting only the dark parts of the image. I do D2 because if I do D1 or just D, it kind of selects a little bit too much, and I don't want to select these white areas of my bright exposure. So I'll do D2 to tighten that mask. If I do D3, that's a little bit too much, and it doesn't select everything that I need inside of here. So I'll do D2 again. do select, then I'll do a mask. Boom. It's already set to 400. Right here, it's set to 400 on the pixels, which if I go into the properties for this layer, or for this layer mask, when we click the layer mask, you can see the feather is set to 400. We can drag that down. You can see what the mask is selecting. If I hold down Option and click on the mask, it brings what the mask is selecting. Anything in white is revealed, anything in black is concealed. So what I want the feather to be at was around 200 to 300. 400 wasn't bad, but we'll say around 300. So now you can see how the shadows on the HDR Ambient are kind of brightened up. Compare this with the artifacts down here. This is the base image. You can see some artifacting, some grain in there. Then we brighten that up, looks better. No noise. This is the darkest right here. And you might be able to see this on the 4K video when it's uploaded to YouTube. You won't really be able to see it too much on the lower resolutions like 1080p, but on 4K you can see like these black spots and how this image is kind of broken up. And this is on the darkest. You can see this is the darkest exposure. So that's why we bring in the shadows using Lumenzia for using D2 and setting the feather to around 300. If we bring it back down to 0, that just doesn't look right. Those looks like an HDR file because it's not blended in or it's not feathered. So I'll bring that back and you can see how nice that looks. We'll do the same thing with the dark exposure. The dark exposure is for the highlights. It's going to be bringing in details from the can lights. You can see here how that's just overexposed. The entire thing is just a white circle. This brings back in some of that detail from those highlights. It will also bring in detail from the windows, because right now those are overexposed and kind of blown out, which if you're going for that, that's fine. If that's the look that you want, that's fine. But I like my lights to be exposed properly, and that's what we're going to bring back using L2. Because if I use L, it selects too much. Everything white is revealed, everything black is concealed, so now it's selecting too much of the walls. And like I said, we're using this for the highlights, so L2 selects more of those highlights. If I do L3, it's a little bit too much. It'll work, but then you see how in here things will start to become a little bit too crunchy on the image when you start to blend it together. So I like L2. We'll do selection with the dark exposure selected. We'll hit selection and then we'll hit mask. And like I said, this is already set to 400 pixels on the feather. So we'll bring this one we'll bring down to around 8. Boom. Look at the difference on that. Look at those windows. Now this is the HDR Ambient file. That looks nice. Look at those lights. Boom. Brought back. Looks nice. Can lights, like I said, that detail in the rim of the can light brought back. Alright, now select all 3 of those. I'll do Command E to merge, and that right there is my HDR Ambient file. Now you can probably send that into a realtor if you wanted to, but we're going to take this a lot further. We'll do Command J on the keyboard just to make a copy. This is going to actually we'll name. Hold on. Let's rename this to HDR Ambient. Okay, so we'll hit Command J. I will turn this off. That's just going to be a copy. This one, I'll hit Command J again. I'll set this one to color. add a black layer mask, reselect this one. We're going to set this one to luminosity and hit that with a 50% opacity. Whoops. There we go, 50% opacity. And we'll group those two together. This will be the HDR Ambient blend. Oh, you know what? Shoot. None of this is... See, sometimes you can't tell until you start adding the ambient how this is misaligned. So it's good that it happened. What I'm going to do is just delete this file. I'll reselect this. I'll select all of these and I'll do a pre-blend. I won't change anything. I'm going to do a line with crop transparent edges. I'm not going to sort it because it does allow you to sort it, the layers by the luminosity or by the name, but I'm not going to do that. And I will lock the layers so that way I can't make any changes to those layers by accident if I forget to change the layer and I think I'm working on a different one and I start adding a brush to it or something, then I start painting the wrong layer and start making mistakes. So that's why I lock them. Alright, and we'll do this again. So we'll do Command J to make a copy. I will do Command J again, hit color. Actually, we'll change the opacity to 50%. Hit it with a black layer mask by doing holding down Option, adding the layer mask. This one, same thing, 50% opacity. Change this to a luminosity blend, and we'll group those two together. HDR Ambient blend. Boom. All right, there we go. Now you can see the difference between what we have with, let's do this, between the HDR Ambient and just adding that luminosity blend on top to the Darken Repair layer. How that already makes a difference. That looks nice, that looks quite good, but we're still going to take it a step further. So with the Darken Repair, what I would do is Command J, set this one to color, leaving the opacity at 100%. For the second one, I will change that to Darken, group those two together, do Darken Repair. And I'm not going to do this for every image because it takes too long to explain it. But for the first one, just so you kind of get an idea, I'm walking you through it step by step. Now we have the bounce right and the bounce left. Select on the bounce right layer, I'll do add layer mask, make sure it's just a white layer mask. I'll hit G on the keyboard to bring up my gradient tool. If you're not already on a black foreground color, press X on the keyboard to switch that back, or you can hit these little arrows right here. But X for like xylophone will, or X-ray will switch those color for you. D will reset it if you hit D on the keyboard for dog, but X will switch them. Black on the foreground, hold down Shift and just click and drag across. And what we're trying to do is click in front of this white blob and in front of myself, because we don't want any of that. So we'll just drag across. We don't want to drag too far because then we'll start to get myself on the other side. But somewhere here in the middle is good, actually, because I have that overexposure from this wall. I'm not going to use that. So you see how that blended in nicely. Also be sure that you're on a black foreground here, set to transparent. Okay, so that's going to be my side-to-side fill flashes. We'll bring this back on top, Darken Repair, and how that Darken Repair fixes issues like this flash glare. Put that back on, Darken Repair, look at that, fixes that automatically. These bright exposures, how it's not blended in perfectly. Those are taken care of by the Darken repair. All these glares on the chairs also taken care of, as well as on these frames. So that's why I do that. We'll add the HDR Ambient blend. There we are. And then what we'll do here is for that last one, which is that fill flash, I'm going to bring this above the Darken repair, and I'm going to set this layer blend to a screen. Or let's check out Lighten. Lighten just, it's not enough for me, so I'll do a screen on this one, but it introduces that it introduces a flash glare here, which is not being corrected by, since we added it above the Darken repair layer. So we'll just add a layer mask, a white one, B for brush, black, foreground color. Just gonna brush that out. Oops. Make sure your hardness is set to 0. And then use your left or right bracket keys to enlarge or decrease the size of the brush. You know what? Let's do this. Boom, 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 boom. P for pen. I'll do Option Shift Delete. Nope. We'll unlock this first. Option Shift Delete. Boom. There we go. Bam. And that's a lot better than what we started with on this HDR Ambient. And I'm sure you can do well with this image, but this is not hard to do. And I'm going to show you a very quick way to do this as we go along. This was just showing you step by step what we'll be doing to every image. So I'll do Command Option Shift E to merge all visible. I'll do Command Shift A for camera raw. Okay, and then we'll do auto to see what it gives us. And that's not too bad. I do like how bright it is, and so do my customers, but you don't have to make it that bright. You could always bring it back down if you wanted to. But my customers like how bright and vibrant the images are. I don't like to bring in my shadows. It usually increases the shadows, but that just starts to look too HDR-ish. So I always make sure it's set to 0 or less. We want to make it look a little bit more contrasty. That's okay. If you hit auto, it's always going to increase your vibrance and saturation a little bit or a lot. So you just be careful of that if you come into your camera raw multiple times and hit auto, which I do sometimes, but I always watch out for that saturation and vibrance. Alright, so I mean, that looks pretty good. I'm not going to really do too much to that, too much else. To show you the HDR Ambient again, I would do a Command Shift A, so that way we can do exactly the same settings as the last one, as the what we just took care of. And this is the difference. I mean, night and day difference. Color cast in here, which of course can be taken care of with extra time, but time is of the essence when working through all these images, so that way you can do more, get paid more. Alright, so that was the first one, and I will do a Command S to save, and I'll move on to the next one. Okay, so let's start opening up a few images. I'm just going to go and select all of these for the next one. Still just looking at the film strip. I can see here that there's two Darken repair layers. I'm not going to use this one because it's just not filled in like the second one. So when I'm looking at the film strip, that's what I'm looking for. See how there's two bounce right? So automatically I know I'm going to deselect those two, and I'll do right click, edit in, open as layers, Get rid of that error, let that go through. Hold down Shift, do the same thing. 2 darken repairs, get rid of this one. And that's all that I need there. So this time I'm going to do a hotkey that I had set up to basically do the same thing as right click, edit in, open as layers. Instead, I set up a hotkey on Lightroom to open as layers already. So anytime you see this error message pop up, you know I already hit the open as layers action. Getting rid of these extras that I don't need. Now I'm filling in this dining room over here. There's 2 fill flashes. Getting rid of the first one. These are the back rooms. Boom. Okay. Open as layers. And let's get started with those. I opened up 3 of them, did I not? I only opened up 2. 1, 2. Yeah, 1. This one, I think I skipped this one. Or did it not show in? Nope, sure didn't. It's weird. Alright, so real quick, we're just going to align Lumenzia, fills in the edges. That's why I like Lumenzia. You can't really see it too much, it's moving kind of quickly. But there's edges in here that get filled in on every single layer. Compared to Photoshop's auto align, it does not fill in those edges. Now what I'll do is hit my action to do my HDR Ambient. And if I control Z real quick, you can see that it already did my D2 and L2 selections for the shadows and the highlights, and then it merges those into one HDR Ambient file. Alright, so we don't have to do that over and over again. Now this is going to be my ambient blend. I created an action that now sets the bottom layer to an HDR ambient luminosity at 50% opacity. And then the top layer is a color layer, also set to 50% opacity. And this is if we ever needed to, if we ever needed to, we could always bring back in some color from the ambient layer, but I hardly ever do that. That's just as a just in case. Now, what we'll do with this second layer or third layer, this one is just a copy in case I ever need it. Sometimes I use it. A copy of the HDR Ambient. So this one is going to be the Darken Repair. I'll hit that with another action. Boom. Creates my Darken layer blend and color layer blend, both set to 100% opacity. And the last one, bam. Look at that. That's going to be the gradient blend. And you can adjust that if you want. Sometimes I would Control Z or Command Z to back up, and we're already on a gradient blend or a gradient tool. So I'll just redo it if I need to, and it doesn't look too bad. Let's check out the shadows. I mean, that shadow is definitely in there, but oh, you know what? There we are. Turn back on the ambient. Look at the difference. This is without any ambient. This is all just flash, all flash. It's kind of cool, a little contrasty, but adding the ambient 50% at 50% opacity, luminosity layer blend brings it back quite nicely. All right, Command Option Shift E, merge all visible, and then Command Shift A to open up Camera Raw. Hit it with auto. Bring back my shadows, increase this a little bit, maybe throw in some contrast to separate those whites from the black a little bit. And I'm just kind of playing with this compared to before, where that's kind of like I was saying, like a log footage when you're grading video footage. This is kind of like log footage compared to after, that just kind of adjusts and corrects by doing the camera raw. This was the HDR Ambient. This is what you get if you only do HDR using Lumenzia, and then taking the extra steps with Flash really helps to separate you from everybody else. Look at that, look at that. Oh, you know what? Let's do this again. I will do exactly the same thing. Apply previous settings, so that way we can be fair. Look at that, look at the difference. You would have to adjust your color cast and all this other stuff, and it's just like amateurish. Or it takes more time to correct, whereas this takes no time at all. And I will show you how to get even faster at doing this over time. But this just looks nice, and this is the type of style that I provide my clients. Super quick, super easy. Let's do this again. I'm going to first thing, pre-blend. There we are. It doesn't really take too long. For the next couple ones, or for the next ones, I'll just skip right through those. But we'll hit it with an action, boom, to do our HDR Ambient. Hit it with another action to create that as an ambient blend. This one right here is my Darken repair. So I'll hit that with that action, Darken color repair. This will be a gradient blend. And I think I took care of getting me out of there. Yeah, okay. All right, now we have to fill in this back room, this hallway, and that bedroom. So everything below this gradient blend, which are these two layers here, because this top layer blends into this bottom layer, everything below is going to be extra. You can see that right side fill, or right side bounce, followed by left side bounce for this dining room, hallway shot, bedroom. And how I'm doing this, I'm holding down Option on the keyboard and just clicking these little eyeballs, and it will only select that to be viewable on the image. Hold down Option, click it again, brings back everything that you had visible before, makes it visible again. So with these bottom ones selected, I will bring these to the top above Darken color repair, and I'll hit that with another action to do the gradient. But as you can see, it's not perfect, so I will Control Z to undo, and I will just gradient blend that myself by holding down Shift on the keyboard, clicking and dragging across, and that looks a lot nicer. I will group it. This is what we did. This is what we have visible right here. Only this layer, I held down Option and clicked on those little eyeballs to show you what's visible. Now this is what's happening. It's being blended into the bottom one. There you go. Oh, sometimes this happens where if I hold down Option and I click this again, these layers don't come back up, so you have to manually do it. And if you just click and drag, they'll all just come up, so that way you don't have to do it one by one. Just click and drag. Alright, so I group those two together. I'll call this a dining room, or just say dining. I will drop this layer blend down to, let's check out lighten. Well, lighten actually, see the difference with lighten and screen is that lighten, let me show you that in a second. I'm going to do screen first. This one right here is going to be the hallway, and this one is going to be that back room. Oh, Shift click both of those to select both, bring this down to screen, and you can see how things look nice and white, but they're kind of, it's a little too bright. And that's an issue with setting these to screen, is that it applies it to most of the image, or to all of the image, the brightness values of the entire thing, compared to with Lighten, it doesn't really brighten up everything. It really just kind of brightens up the brightest parts of the image, which if I turn that off, you can see how that works. And if I do the same thing to screen on these, you can see, or to Lighten, you can see how things kind of, they fill in, but it has like this discoloration in there. And I mean, that's easy if you want to just mask it out. Just add a mask and brush it out. But that takes time. So what I do instead of that, you know, you can, oh, sorry, add a layer mask and kind of brush it out, but I don't want to do that all the time. So I just end up setting these to screen, and it kind of blends in nicer. If it becomes too bright, I just drop the opacity a little bit, you know what I mean? Same thing with this one, which switches back to screen, and we'll just switch, we'll lower the opacity a little bit. So there we go, that looks nicer. Now, I have an issue with this TV screen, because in my darken color repair, I'm standing in it right there, and I'm also standing in this right side. So what I'll do is take care of that in a second. I'm going to select the ambient blend, do Command Option Shift E, merge all visible. Then I'll do Command Shift A, camera raw. Let's finish this image real quick. I'm going to bring down the highlights because it's a little too bright. Increase the saturation to make those blacks and the shadows, not saturation, the contrast, to separate those whites and blacks a little bit. Make sure my shadows are okay. Let's bring this down just a touch. And that looks good. Alright, now what I do with the pen tool, just select these edges super quick. Let me bring up my KO Tech while I do it. And of course this is lagging a little bit as I do too much all at once. I'll do Command Shift Enter to make that into a selection. Once I close out the pen tool, I'm going to bring up my favorites and just add a TV screen. Boom. That fixes that. Now, if you're not able to do that, you can always just do the same thing. Let's see. I'll undo. I'll do a gradient, and we're going to switch this to black to white. Click into here. We'll switch this. Double click into here. Switch this to like a grayish. We'll see if this works. Yeah, see, like, it's a little harder to do it. There we go. That's why I use, I mean, that's not bad. Whoops. That's not bad if you wanted to do it that way. It's a free way of doing it. Otherwise, I just do TV screen on KO Tech, and that looks nice. I don't have to worry about clicking and dragging and trying to figure it out. It's just done for me. If I wanted to change it, I can click into the gradient overlay and just change the angle of it. You know what I mean? That's fine. That's easy to do. Hit escape. Same thing with this TV screen. If I click onto that layer, I can always just drag this around or change the angle this way as well. So that's one way I fix my TV screens, is using KO Tech. And I will go and just save that, close it, start working on the next one. What is this? Oh, that's the last one. Let's close that one too. Doing Command W, we'll close it out. Doing Command S, we'll save it. Okay, we'll close that. Do Command 0 on the keyboard to zoom extents. It will zoom into the entirety of the image, or zoom out to the entirety of the image. I'll select all, go back to Lumenzia, do a little pre-blend real quick. And I promise you we're going to go a lot faster in a second, but I'm just walking you through the steps. Alright, so HDR Ambient, boom, done. And then Ambient Blend, done. This is the difference between the HDR Ambient Blend versus just the HDR Ambient. Okay, you can see that the color cast is fixed compared to this HDR Ambient. This is just the shadows are boosted too much, but it looks nice when you add it to this Darken Color Repair. So let's do that, Darken Color Repair. We'll do this right there with a gradient. Oh, you know what though? I need to go back to that gradient and switch this to a black to transparent. We got lucky here because it went from black to white, but sometimes it just looks weird and it throws everything off if you aren't on a black to transparent fill for the gradient. Just make sure you're on a linear gradient, not any of these other ones, radial, angle, reflected. You don't need those. Alright, so Darken Color Repair took care of a lot. We'll do a Command Option E or Command Option Shift E to merge all visible. Command Shift A, boom, auto, bam. And we're going to speed through this a little bit more, so you can see it doesn't really take too much time. The first couple images did, as I explained things to you, but now it's like, look at the difference. Look how much of a higher quality that is compared to this HDR Ambient. Like, and it took no time at all. Took no time at all on location or in the editing room. Once you have it figured out how to do your actions, I'm going to save this, and how to use your hotkeys, you will breeze through all of your images, and you can even let the computer handle 90% of the processing for you. I'll show you that as well. Okay, so this one was a dining room shot. I have my Ambient, Darken Color Repair, to fill, and I think actually, no, I'm going to deselect that one. This is my fill, my bounce left. The hallway, I was showing you how I didn't want this flash spill to go over this can light right here. And you can see I was trying to work through that because this 360 camera was getting in my way. So I'm deselecting these, don't need those. And you can see the difference. I landed on this one because it doesn't spill over too much compared to this. And the last one. Oh. And the last one. So I like this one. I'll go with that. This is the left side. That's fine. I don't care. We'll go to that. This is the same thing. How it's just spilling over too much compared to this. That's fine. Okay. So I will deselect this one. Got it. Got it. Let's this one's not bright enough, so I'll deselect that. That one's bright. And these are the back room, 2 back room shots, dang it, that we will be bringing in. There we go, open as layers. And let's do a few more. Actually, I'm going to show you that one real quick before I move on to the other ones. Alright, hit it with a pre-blend. Alright. Now, boom. HDR Ambient blend. Darken color. Gradient blend. These are going to be all the extra shots below that gradient blend. Bring that up to the darken color repair. And I will do a gradient blend. Blend myself out. See how, this is why I don't want there to be an overspill onto the other side, because then it becomes too hard to blend out that overspill, and you kind of don't want that. So I'm okay with having that overspill kind of there in the middle, because that will blend in with the HDR Ambient. So I will Command 0 to zoom back out, do Command G to group those, set this to a screen for the group, and you can see what that does there. We'll do it again. Set that group. To screen. And I'll just select all three of these, set those to screen, and now you can see what happens when you turn those off and on. And you'll notice that when I lit this room over here, by turning that off and on, you can see how that flash caught inside this window and is now lighting up this inside window inside the dining room. So I'm going to add a layer mask and just brush that out. Boom. Alright. And there you go. That's why I don't really care too much about the flash pop here inside the middle of this can light. You can definitely tell that it's from the flash, but only you are going to be able to tell. A real estate agent won't, unless you get too crazy with it and you see how that affects it. That's why I don't care about that flash spill inside the middle of it. It looks kind of natural with that can light in the middle. But if you go too far outside of that, then it just looks kind of weird. So try and control your flash pops if you can. It'll just make your images look a lot better. This is the difference between the HDR Ambient and the Ambient blend. Looks nice. Alright. Merge all visible. Open up the camera raw. Hit auto. And just kind of lightly touch these a little bit. I like contrast. Some people might not, so you can adjust things according to your taste. This is kind of what I do to make things look more appealing to me. Now, so here's the thing. Actually, let me delete that. Here's the thing with setting all of these layers here to screen. They're all set to screen. I'm going to group those real quick together and turn those off. And this is just going to be our darken color repair, followed by the bounce right, bounce left, right. Okay, so now you can see that these lights here are exposed fairly correctly. They're not blown out, but when you add screen to it, it starts to increase those. And in this image it's not too bad, but in other images it will blow out those light bulbs again. You can see here there's not too much detail compared to when I turn that off. That detail is there. So when you add all of those extra layers to screen, it does do that. One way around that, if you wanted to, is to since all of these layers are basically inside of this hallway, since it's grouped together, I'll hit M for marquee, for the marquee tool, You'll see that right here. Rectangular marquee tool. Hit M. I will over select that hallway. And then I will do a feather. Let's see, I haven't used feather in a while. Yep, select, modify, feather. I have it as a hotkey, so that I can just bring it up as a function shift F6. And you will feather that selection by 200 to 300 pixels, even 100 pixels sometimes, but 300 in my opinion is better if you're able to get away with it. The smaller the selection, the less of a number you'll be able to get away with. So if I selected this window, 300 pixels wouldn't select anything, it would just encapsulate itself. So you might have to set it towards 100, maybe 200 on a small window or a small selection, but here, this is what we're going to get away with. I will just select add layer mask, and you can see the difference. Here's the mask, how it blended that right there. And here is the difference. So it's not affecting the rest of this image. It blends in quite nicely. You can't really tell that it only affects that image. This is without that mask. The difference, you can see how it affects even these windows over here, how it brightens those up, whereas before they're a little darker, dimmer. And then this is without the mask, and then the mask, layer mask added back, so that way our lights are not affected. There we are. Now I will just Command Option Shift E, Command Shift A, re-add those settings. Boom. Whoa. Actually, let's brighten that up now a little bit. There we are. And might even increase the shadows a little bit, bring down those whites. There we are. But at least things are exposed a little bit better. Those can lights are nice. So there we are. Yep. All right. Save that. And we'll move on to the next one while that saves. Select all of these. Get rid of what we don't need. Real quick. I don't need these, and these were, I was trying to fill in this wall right here, but I've already edited these photos before, so I can tell you that I won't need it because that wall is plenty lit by some of these other frames. So we're just going to open that up. Okay, hit it with a pre-blend. Hit these actions. Show it to you quick. Now I'll bring in these extras, bring it up over the darken color repair. Whoa, grab the wrong one, there we go. Don't want to grab that gradient blend. It always needs to be two of these layers together to make that gradient blend. Everything below it can be brought in above the darken color repair. Now, gradient blend those two together. Group them. Switch it to a screen. Let's see what lighten gives us. Lighten, screen, lighten. Lighten's not too bad. Screen. There we go. So lighten is not too bad, but I kind of like the way that screen looks. I don't think I need a, yeah, we'll just lower that opacity just a little bit. That's the difference. All right. Now I'll merge those. Open up camera raw, hit auto, see what it gives us, bring in that contrast, bring back those shadows, wrangle in those highlights a little bit. And that is good to go. Look at these. Look how nice those bulbs look. Man, look at that. Oh, trash cans, not cool. Good thing I don't care too much about them for this, just for a short-term rental. And I will save that and close that. Close this one. I'm not fully done with those images. We'll come back to them in Lightroom, but what I do to them is not a whole lot. It just adds a little bit of a finishing touch, but I'll take care of that all at once. Now I'm just going to start opening up images to move even faster through this. And I'll explain them as I go. That's a darken color repair that's too bright. But this one is going to be my right side fill flash. This is a 2 left side bounces, so I just need this one right here. And this is the fill flash for the shadows that's going to be on this side. Because when you're blending in these two side to side fill flashes, you notice that when I'm bouncing off this right hand side, it leaves all these shadows here. So those shadows need to be filled in, and that's what that fill flash is for. If you watch the full photo shoot, you'll know what that image is coming from. I'll open up those. Same thing. I'll open up these. Boom, boom. Get rid of what I don't. And we will work on these. All right. Pre-blend them. And look, I can go way faster than this, but for one, I am recording in 4K right now, so that way you can see the details. And two, actually I'm just running through these actions real quick, so I don't really know what I'm saying, but I can go a lot faster, I know that. Now, I brought these extras up above. This is that fill flash. I'm going to set that to screen. There we go. Select these. Actually, just select them all. Throw them all on screen. And there we go. That looks nice. You can see how without this fill flash, where it fills in this right-hand side, without it, with it. And you can always adjust how bright it is. If it's a little too bright, you know what I mean? But that's why I fill that in on location. These are the rooms. Okay. Open up merge, and then open up camera raw, bring in the contrast, bring down those shadows. It's a little too bright here. So there we are. I don't like this color, this coloring in here. So I would do a replace color by going to image, adjustments, going down to the very bottom, hitting replace color, selecting this part of the image, making sure I'm around 130-ish on the fuzziness, drop down to saturation, gonna do -24, and you can see that difference. It's a subtle change, but this is with that change applied, and that's without it. It kind of has like this orangey cast to it. It's a light one, but it's there, and that's without it taken out, or this is with it taken out, sorry, and then without it taken out. So I like to apply that to the overall image. Sometimes if it applies to too much, then I will mask it out. Like if it applies to some wood floors, and I want to keep the integrity of that color and not desaturate it, I'll just mask it. But in here, I really don't care about this image. We'll save that, close it. Okay. Moving right along. There we are. Boom. Boom. And you can see what happens when you have your actions. Now I have, I brought this extra up. You can see how it fills in those shadows on the left hand side of the image. And I also have my reflection inside of this microwave that's coming from this one, this side fill on the right. So I will activate that mask, and I will just brush myself out using a black layer mask, or a black foreground color on the brush. And there we are there. Boom. Merge. And we're just tailoring each image as we go along. Now that's good, we'll save. Now this editing right here is just like basic edits. I can go into more detail and it takes slightly longer to edit overall, but the images look a lot nicer. But even this style right here, whoa, there we are, is not bad. A lot of people like it, and it will get you through an image fast, or it will get you through a photo shoot fast with great quality. But understand it can always be better, and I will show you that eventually as well. Just hitting these actions one at a time. I think maybe once I get to like 1,000 subscribers, I will show you the absolute fastest way I know of editing these pictures. But for now, I'm showing you this quick and easy way of doing it. As you get to know the process and learn it, because even though you should get to a point to where you can edit your images quickly, you really need to know how to edit first before you just jump the gun and say, all right, let me just create all these actions and just let it run itself, because then if you have any issues, you won't really know how to fix them as easily compared to if you know how to edit an image from start to finish without the actions. So take some time to learn it, and then create your actions and really speed along. That's a good image. All right. Save. Move on to the next. I don't like that. I would probably desaturate that orange, but whatever. As a matter of fact, no, I'm all right. Forget it. If you want to desaturate it, you can just create a quick selection around it and drop the saturation on that orange. But I'm okay for right now. I'm not turning these images into the client because I already edited these images already and sent them off. But now I'm doing it for you all, so that way hopefully you learn from it, and it helps you to increase the quality of your images, so that way you can get better jobs, higher paying jobs, better clients, higher paying clients, people that respect your time a little bit more, because you're not just a $100 or less photographer who is in and out in 15 minutes shooting HDR ambient brackets. Now I'm just opening up these bedrooms. This one I'm not going to work on because I threw this one on the bed and I never checked my my focus, and so it's actually out of focus, so no need to work on that. Yeah, you can see that it's just not in focus, so that's fine. But we will start to move through these images a little bit faster now. Now that hopefully you understand the process a little bit more so. Let's go and work on these. Hopefully my computer doesn't overload itself. It's a MacBook Air M1 chip with only 8 gigabytes of RAM, so I mean, it works for me, but what can you do? Alright, so now that we're working on the bedrooms are the absolute easiest to edit. They practically do themselves. Actually, like I said, probably once I get to 1,000 subscribers, I'll show you how to get it to 99% edited by doing this nice little trick. Oh no, I hit the wrong action. There we go. Let's do this ambient, bam, boom, boom, darken color repair. And this is why I always go from the right side first to the left side, is because of my action for the gradient. But sometimes I'm in a rush for time and I'm just like, whatever, I'm just gonna hit the left side first. And in that case, all you have to do is make sure your gradient is selected and do Command I to invert, and that takes care of that. Alright, everything else looks kind of good. That's just with Flash, only Flash. This is with the ambient blend. Might even drop that a little bit, look kind of nice. So I'll drop that even more to about 50%. So that's actually around 24-25% blend overall, since this is already set to 50%. 50% of 50% is 25. So if my math is correct, I'm not a mathematician. Hit that with an auto. It's kind of bright. So let's wrangle that back. That looks nice. And we'll save and exit. On to the next. Boom. This is just one layer. One flash pop, I mean. So I don't have to do anything else to that. I'm just going to leave that alone. I will merge all visible. Go to camera raw. Well, you know what? Oh, my focus is shallow on this image. I must have focused right here on this part of the washer, because back here is out of focus. So that's my fault. I should have focused more like in the middle of the image to get everything in focus, but whatever, it's just a utility room. Just keep that in mind. Keep that in mind for your own photography. Save that, get out of that, move on to the next. Alright, now again a bedroom shot. Just gonna move through it, stick around. I'll show you how to move it even faster. I still got another trick up my sleeve, but I can't show you that right off the bat. Then you wouldn't be sticking around. So I think I actually need to back up, delete that, because I never did. You know what? That's why the focus wasn't even correct on this shot right here. I was just moving through it too quick, but that's fine. All right, run those actions real quick again. Whoa, 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 wrong action, wrong action. Back up, back up. Again, moving too quick. All right, so there we go. Back on track. Maybe. Oh shoot, set to darken, there we go. Dang it, dang it, dang it, dang it. What did I do here? Color darken. Sometimes, dang it. I'm going too quick, just gotta do it again. Or maybe I selected the wrong ones, that's why. went too quick and pressed the wrong buttons, threw everything off. There we go. There we go. Alright. Merge all visible. Bring back those shadows. You see how far it brought those shadows? So I like to bring those back. Just increase the contrast. So that way the room looks nice and bright. Save that. Boom. Next one. Alright. Moving right along. Moving right along. Now we have our flash pops. I don't need this one. That one was an extra. And I did this flash pop here, this extra one, to help alleviate this flash glare off this glass. So with nothing changed on the layer blending, I'm just gonna do a white layer mask. B for brush, make sure it's set to a black foreground, just brush that out. Boom, done. All right, add the ambient blend back to it. And there we are. Not bad, not bad. It's too easy. It's too easy once you start to know the flow. And then this, don't forget, if you check out the actions, how to create your own actions, I show you how to create an action so that way you can set your blend mode to lighten, darken, or screen. So whenever I have those extras below the gradient, I bring that up, hit my action to create a screen or a lighten or a darken, and that takes care of that quick. Check your TVs because it could be showing up. Now if you do one TV screen one way, I like to do it, oh shoot, this is all out of whack. Let me just restart that real quick. Sometimes that happens and you don't notice that everything's misaligned right away until you've gone through the entire process. And that's okay, it happens. That's why I like to hit pre-blend first, but sometimes I forget. Alright, so just hit that one more time. Boom. That's already set to screen. Boom. Darken color. Set that blend. Take care of this TV screen. And just brush yourself out. Command 0 to zoom out. Check out those windows. So on this layer, where we're trying to light up this room here, it brought in the luminance from the windows as well when you set it to screen. This is with it off. This is with it on. You can see how those windows get brighter. So layer mask, hit M on the for marquee. For the marquee tool, select that. We'll do a feather selection again. Image, adjustments, replace color, but I have a hotkey set up to just bring that up. We'll do 200 on this one, and I will do oh, you know what? I should have done the layer mask afterwards. We'll just delete that layer mask. Add the layer mask now. And you can see how with this layer mask on, the windows are not affected. With the layer mask off, windows are affected. We don't want that, so we'll turn that on. And that's the difference. All right. Finish this image. Make it nice and bright without overblowing anything. Move on to the next. Darken color. Boom. Boom. We'll add in these, whoops. Bring in these extras above the darken color. Switch those both to screen. Let me group those and you can see the difference. Now, I don't care if it affects the rest of this image because there's nothing that's really being blown out by adding those to screen. If you just look at this, most of that highlight is in there, but some of this extra luminance, even though it's dim, still adds a little bit to the image, but you can't really notice on this one, so it's fine. Compared to the ones with like the windows and the lights, when you add too many extra layers as a screen, it kind of blows out those details again. So if you're in a rush, sometimes that's fine, or a lot of times that's fine to blow out those details because you're sending them off to realtors who aren't going to notice. But if you need to take your time because you have a higher paying client, then just make sure you watch your details, because details matter to higher paying clients and they will get on you for it. These images work themselves. Is this out of... No, that was misaligned. I keep forgetting to hit that pre-blend. Look at that. I mean, bring those shadows back. That looks quite pleasant. I think it is misaligned, but that's fine. Yeah, it is misaligned. But just hit it with a pre-blend or go into your edit, auto align all your layers in. You should be fine, unless your camera moved like quite a bit. Then you probably should have retaken that picture, assuming you probably like bumped into it or something. Now, what was the last image we did? We didn't do that. Didn't do that. We did this one. We have not done this one. All right, open those. And we'll open up this one, which was the last image. All right, so last two images that we have to edit. Do it real quick. Yeah, I think once I do get to like 1,000 subscribers, I will do another full shoot on location, as well as another full edit. You know, for this one, I like the brighter one. I'm gonna delete that. This one, I did this window right here because you'll notice that when I just select this flash pop, this flash popped layer is showing up inside of that compared to this, which I will blend back. So add a white layer mask, B for brush, and brush that out. Just make sure you don't get yourself in there. All right. Yeah, like once I get to 1,000 subscribers, I'll show you this trick that practically does everything for you. Until then, this is what I have for you. Look at that. That's too nice, too easy. Now, I will run my main action, which does the ambient blend, the darken repair, the grading blend, as well as the auto alignment. Boom, look at that. Brought everything extra up and above. These are my extras. These are my extras. All right, that looks good. That looks good. But actually, it's affecting this window. So let's just go ahead and hit that with a mask. Feather that 200-ish. Oh, I already have my mask. Why do I keep doing that? Boom. There we go. And that looks better. Merge. Boom. Practically done. Practically done. Save that. Let's close this one. Let's close this one. Go back into Lightroom. Go into my filter for needed only. And what this does is it only selects, whoops. It only selects the images that are TIFF images rather than raw files, so that way I can see all the images that I worked on right off the bat. That looks pretty good. They all look fairly good for a base edit. I can show you over time how to edit these even more, but you turn these into a realtor and they will love you. And all I'm doing here is just increasing the exposure and the contrast a little bit, just to kind of make it a little bit better. Sometimes you don't have to do it to all your images. Like that one's already bright. That one's bright enough. But I do like to brighten them up a little bit and add some more contrast. Doesn't really take too long. I guess I could have just selected all and applied this to all of them. So let's do that. I'm gonna do a Command A and then turn on my auto sync by turning off and on this little button here. Auto sync is on, and I will do verticals for the transform, which will apply a vertical transform to all the images. Now I'll just make sure, I'm gonna turn this back off. I'll make sure that they all look straight real quick. Sometimes I have to hit auto because it accounts for like the TVs or the edges, whatever is close to that edge is what it accounts for, and sometimes you don't want to account for a crooked TV as it will throw off your image. Just like these frames. I hit vertical here, but it was tilting inwards a little bit, so you have to hit auto for that to align itself out. I mean, these are all pretty good. These are all good. Didn't really take too long. I mean, except for the fact that I had to explain everything, which adds to how long everything takes. But without the explanation, editing these will take 40 minutes, maybe 40 minutes to an hour. I could show you that as I get closer to 1,000 subs. But for now, let's do auto sync, hit 5 stars. Whoops. Turn off my filters. Filters off. And now let's go down to these at the end. I'm just going to select all of these. These are my detail shots that I give to my short-term rentals. And I have a preset applied. Make sure your auto sync is turned on. Hit that preset. What it does is increase the exposure, increase the contrast, brings down the highlights, and stuff like this right here. Leaves shadows alone, increases the whites, decreases blacks, increases vibrance. And I'll just run through this real quick to adjust each one because they're not all going to be the same. Shoot. Make sure your auto sync is turned off. These don't have to be like, oh my god, they're so perfect, because these are just for short-term rental homeowners that don't really understand the difference. So you just give them something like this and they will enjoy it. fix your white balance on a few of them. That looks okay. That's fine. I have another action set up to decrease the yellows and the oranges. Here in the HSL, decreases oranges and yellows. I will get rid of this one. I'll probably just hit auto on the white balance. I don't like that, so you know what I mean? Like, I'm not going to fix these all the way right here, but it doesn't really take too long. You just fix minor things like that. Get rid of what you don't need. Hit a white balance on this white. Just kind of move through it. You don't need to take too long. And you can charge extra for this. Just say, oh yeah, I take detail shots and I do this, I do that. Blah, 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 blah. Hit this with an auto on the transform tool to make those look straight. You know what I mean? Like, so quick. Doesn't have to be perfect. And I showed you, at the beginning, I showed you it only took 4 minutes for me to capture these 22 images, 21 images. And we will, boom. Yeah, why not? Bam. Now, I'll hit these with a 5-star. And I will go to all my 5 stars. Select all. And you can see that we just worked through 40 images. Just like that for an entire shoot. 40 images. Actually, this one has a little bit of a purple cast to it, which can be fixed as well. Boom, there we go. Oh, don't want to do that. I did auto sync, make sure that's turned off. There we are. But I mean, these all look good. And once you have your action set up, you can make it look this good a lot faster. I'm sure this video probably took an hour and a half or so, but that's what happens when you have to explain throughout most of these images. So I apologize for how long it might have taken. But this is it. Too easy. Too easy. Thank you all for coming, and if you liked any of the information I've been giving out, please don't forget to like and subscribe. Otherwise, take care and have a great day.